Salutations, respected viewers. In this video, I'm going to ask, why is it that so many people still buy Trump's pitch? Over 40% of Americans still say they approve of President Trump, which is flabbergasting. I'm staggered that someone who is so flagrantly dishonest, who lies almost non-stop, who's so vile, so grossly insulting, so discourteous, so dishonourable, who violates just about every rule of common decency there is, whose rule is so completely chaotic and erratic, can still command the support of a large minority of Americans. So why is this? The Trump campaign is a bit like a doomsday cult. It reminded me of this précis I read of a 1950s psychological experiment, and they were looking at doomsday cultists who predicted the end of the world. They did their countdown to the end of the world, and when supposedly the apocalypse came, and it didn't come, amazingly, people didn't abandon their belief. In quite many cases, they continued to believe in this cult, even though the whole thing had been disconfirmed. So that's the staggering thing about belief disconfirmation, as in Trump will lie and lie so many times, or he'll say he's going to drain the swamp, get rid of Wall Street dominance, bring Wall Street insiders into his cabinet, and there are myriad examples. I could be here reeling them off all day. But of course, many of his supporters are religious fundamentalists, religious maniacs in a few cases, would not be much of an exaggeration. And they're sort of people who believe in a rapture into heaven, so almost a doomsday cult. There's patently a link between religiosity and irrationality, and religiosity shades into insanity. I don't think atheism would ever lead to mental illness. There are atheists who are mentally ill, but I don't think one causes the other. I don't think there's a cause and effect or any correlation there. Obviously, there's some moderate religious believers who are completely mentally healthy. But if you really believe you've got a guardian angel at your shoulder and God or indeed the devil intervenes in every trifling decision or event, then I think you're not quite all there. But Trumpsters follow him partly because of the sunk cost fallacy. So I'm treating you to a bit of psychobabble here. You've invested your time, your money, your emotion in Trump. You identify with Trump. You're a Trumpette. Some women call themselves, you're a Trumpster. And the more you commit yourselves, the harder it is to think, oh my goodness, I've been fooled. What an idiot I've been. So therefore, it's easier to just carry on rather than face that existential crisis of acknowledging that you have been conned. So there's some people who are true believers, and with true believer syndrome, no matter how much evidence there is, no matter how superabundant it is, even there's proof positive that something is bogus, nothing will sway them. Their minds are very firmly shut to truth and reason. They are entrenched in their beliefs, and they just dig their heels in more if you prove to them that they are mistaken. Obviously, it's not just with Trump supporters. It can be people of any political outlook. And I could say the same about the Democrats. To a lesser extent, they tend not to be religious fundamentalists, and they are more evidential-based in coming up with their policies. There's a bit of logical reasoning going on to their discourse. So, and the Republican Party used to have plenty of logical reasoning. Where has it gone? So these are often emotive topics he talks about, things like gun control or abortion or terrorism, things where there's a knee-jerk reaction. It's a gut issue, not something that people reason about very much. And a lot of people don't understand statistics of probability, and they're lies, damned lies and statistics. And Trump will come up with any number you want. Just think of a number, just invent it. How many jobs are dependent on trade with Saudi Arabia? Is it 4,000? Is it 450,000? He said both on the same day. Was it even in the same interview he said both? So he'll just spew out absolute drivel, any numbers at all. The truth doesn't matter. The truth doesn't seem to exist so far as he's aware. So people's self-esteem is sometimes related to this group membership. I'm a Republican, I'm a Trumpster, I'm a conservative, I'm a gun advocate. And the same is true of belonging to the other side, favouring gun control, being a Democrat, supporting Hillary Clinton, whatever it is. But I think it's particularly severe in the case of Trump. So there's a bit of Semmelweis effect when some of what he said he's going to do, he's not done. Like he's going to have a total ban on all Muslim immigration, which he didn't even attempt to do. Only stop people from 7 Muslim majority countries, with some exceptions even to those 7 countries. And even if you're not a Muslim but a citizen of one of those countries, you'd still be kept out. So not doing what he promised. saying he's against radical Islamic terrorism, and then giving a bear hug to the absolute ruler of the most radically Islamic country in the world that funded ISIS, where the 9/11 hijackers come from, and on and on. But this doesn't seem to have any effect on the Trumpsters. It won't shake them. Admittedly, some of them have fallen off and say, I've been had, or he's broken his promises. Some of them have been a little bit rational and realised that. But the Republican Party seems to have long since lost its moral courage. So the problem with career politicians, to some extent the Democrats too, but then politics is the only thing, it's their career. After college they work for a congressman or they were a pollster or something like that, were around the fringes of politics before becoming a full-time machine politician, and there's really no other career to go back to. And so they have to exhibit blind loyalty to toe the party line. They're not independent-minded people. Think back to Judge Bork in the 80s. 6 Republican senators voted against him. Whereas you see on the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh, despite him being very disreputable, was it no Republicans broke ranks at all? I think one Democrat did, but there you are. It shows you how bifurcated the system is. And by the way, I would make many of the same criticisms of the Democrats, only not so severe. So opinion is polarized in America like never before. I'm certainly not original in making that observation. Trump and some Republicans before him, to some extent George W. Bush, were Manichaean in their worldview. There was a duality. There was good versus evil. Now, good and evil do exist, but trying to present everything as though it's like that, but then doing the things that you'd consider to be evil. Like he does a fine line in anti-Muslim bile, but as I say, sucks up to a Muslim absolute ruler, things like that. So, Republicans used to believe in democracy and liberty around the world and not in heaping praise on savage tyrants like Kim Jong-un. But now, nary a word of criticism from the ranks of his own party about that. So the Trumpsters are applying this Manichaean worldview to domestic American politics. It's them and us. Which side are you on? You can't be reasonable and say, well, there's some wrong on my side, and the other side are actually a little bit right about that. And it's too tribalistic. People too much into labels, in being categorical about things, not recognizing its shades of grey, not tolerating uncertainty, ambiguity, partly right, partly wrong, just not sure. So the way to get away from being prejudiced, and I strive to do so, is by curiosity. I was given a teddy when I was at Tot by my aunt. Curious George, it said on it, so I took this as my motto: be as inquisitive as possible, expose myself to countervailing points of view, and you'll see from my videos that I watch videos which I completely disagree, and then I critique them, but I often acknowledge that there is some merit in what they say. Very little political discourse is entirely non-meritorious. Anyway, so who do they demonize? The Democrats, the illegals, the Muslims, and so on. And you'll see this in Sean Hannity's book, Deliver Us from Evil, or other ones, or Ann Coulter's saying treason. That's what Democrats are like, the treason. Is she really saying they should be prosecuted for treason? I mean, high treason against the United States is still punishable with death. She's a lawyer, but she doesn't weigh her words. And claiming that, anything outrageous Trump said was a joke, making these absurd claims that the Access Hollywood tapes, that it was selectively edited and spliced. Even Trump hasn't come up with that rationalization. Even he didn't deny that he'd said what he said. So what you do, if so, someone like Trump, is you persuade people they're under attack and they'll rally around you. Close ranks, we're all in this together, and we have to stick up for each other no matter what. Even if one of our number does something absolutely outrageous, it's totally in the wrong, hey, he's one of our guys, so we'll stand by him. Case with Judge Kavanaugh. Bill Clinton was able to try the same trick 20 years ago over the Monica Lewinsky issue. Now, admittedly, that certainly wasn't attempted rape. It was a consensual liaison. Incidentally, I'm not actually saying that Judge Kavanaugh attempted rape. I think it likely, but I'm not saying that he did. Whereas Clinton definitely used Monica as his little humidor. That's by the by. So if you make people believe they're under assault, they will circle the wagons. It's the Oxlager mentality, completely defensive. So Trump is supposedly tough. We'll see what a wimp he is, what a wet tissue he is. I'll come to that later. He'll be so vulgar, so vile, and then have the chutzpah to ask for civility. A bit like his wife leading this anti-bullying campaign. Look how bullying Trump is against those he perceives as being weaker than him. And Ann Coulter, she railed against Hillary Clinton for being against the weak because she defended a suspect in a rape case, as was his duty as a lawyer. But Ann Coulter can't find it in herself to speak out against Trump for his disgusting behaviour. So Trumpsters will allow him to get away with so much, despite him being utterly unrepentant. If they're fervent Christians, they would believe in absolution. But the person has to actually recognise their wrongdoing. He is without remorse. He never apologises, and he never admits he told a lie, just moves on to the next flagrant falsehood. You notice how the caravan suddenly dropped like a stone, is just out of discourse, just gone, just vanished, as though it had never been, the moment the midterms were over. Why is that? I wonder how long it'll be before those 15,000 troops on the Mexican border are withdrawn. It was just an electoral stunt. And now, the caravan will reappear just in time for the 2020 presidential election. I'd bet the bank on it, right? Remember where you heard it first. Mark my words. And mark you, there'll be some unknown Middle Easterners in the caravan whom Republicans will demand to be sent back. Middle Eastern refugees. What if they were called Jesus, Mary, and Joseph? They were refugees. Should they have been sent back to their deaths? You see, and that's another example of the cognitive dissonance, that you believe this is the case, we should be compassionate, but no, we shouldn't be compassionate at all. And being absolutely heartless is compassionate conservatism, toughness, compassion. They're on an axis. You can have more of one, more of the other. You can't have more of both at the same time. You can't have less of both at the same time. So there's a trade-off. Make your mind up. Trying to have it both ways a lot of the time. So I remember Obama was slammed by Sean Hannity over his choice of mustard. Lambasted for being elitist. Really? You know, Obama, who grew up without much money, who was mixed race at a time of intense racial prejudice, who didn't meet his dad till he was grown up, and Trump, you know, the son of a New York multimillionaire who inherited $200 million in the 70s, who grew up in a stable family, and he's not an elitist? I mean, Hannity, are you out of your mind? So because Obama is a tiny bit unusual, experimental in his culinary choices, he has to be excoriated. This is daft, double standards. It's for the birds. So you see how Fox News is ludicrously, childishly, hilariously, pathologically partisan, not remotely to be taken seriously as a news channel. I mean, the very word news is an insult in the name of that channel. So you see, Trump was so pro-military, had a lot of military people on his side, yet he skips that commemoration in Paris because of the rain. For the soldiers at the time, it was a rain of bullets. For the Marine, it was a rain of bullets that they were facing, but Trump won't face a drop of rain. Some of those teenage soldiers, they lied about their age to get into the army or the Marines. Some of these boys would have died shrieking in agony. Trump will not tolerate a drop of rain for those who poured out their blood for America. It's beyond disgraceful, yet he's happy to golf in the rain. You see what's important to him, and scarcely a word of criticism for his own party from Fox News, who are oh so patriotic. He used to have the flag on the screen all the time, but no, he's their man, Trump. They haven't a bad word to say about him, despite his utterly nauseating behaviour. So I hope I've given you some idea of the cognitive dissonance of why some people would still support Trump despite his many failures, despite his repeated lies, despite his inconstancy. There are a few things he's achieved. The economy is going reasonably well. There's been no war with nuclear war with North Korea yet. Tax cuts if you're a multimillionaire, that's good. Because I'm even-handed, I will strive to find a few positive things to say about him. That's about as much as I can do.